right, we are back live. This is your Thursday night Bolo Punch Boxing Hour brought to you by George Rogie Insurance. I'm Chris Guzman, your host. On the phone right now, I've got cruiserweight sensation BJ Flores and his trainer. I've got Jacob Chavez. Jacob, what's going on with you, man?
Hey, what's happening, man? No, we're just out here in Vegas enjoying the victory. BJ had a great performance, so he had a couple days of relaxation. So we've been trying to get him to have a little fun before we get back to work next week.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Was this training camp for Mendoza any different than any ordinary fight?
You know what? I think every fight that we have a training camp, we treat it differently, just depending on who it is that we're fighting. Initially, we didn't really know who we were fighting, so we do the things that we normally do. But when we did find out we were fighting Epifanio Mendoza, we watched some of his film, and it was, our training camp was conducive to his style, which was throwing a lot of overhand rights, uppercuts, and just some of the things that he does. And if he in his fight against Lacey and his fight with Dawson, so it was pretty specific as every camp is, based on the opponent, BJ's fighting.
Yeah, the commentators often forget that the opponent isn't the only one that only gets 3 weeks. The favorite usually only gets 3 weeks to prepare for his this fight as well. BJ didn't know who he was fighting, so he only had a couple weeks to prepare as well for the opponent. Most boxers at this level are in the gym anyways, correct?
Well, I mean, BJ trains pretty much every day. He's in shape just about the whole year round. When we do start our training camps, and it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks long to prepare. And we try to keep it pretty basic. I mean, with the boxing, because it happens, opponents fall out, you never know who you're going to fight. So we try to work on the things that, BJ, he's good at certain things. He needs to work on other things that are going to apply to anyone he fights. It doesn't matter if he fights Epifanio Mendoza or whoever the person is he fights, he's still going to have to do the things that he needs to, with his jab, he's going to have to work on a lot of the things that he's good at. So, I mean, regardless of who the opponent is, yes, we are going to still, keep a pretty general, work ethic in what we do every time. And until we do know who the opponent is, that's when we start, working on certain strategies.
Hey, Jacob, I got a question for you from our listeners. Any interest in your guys' camp and possibly fighting Roy Jones, who's talking about moving up to cruiser?
No, not really at all. I mean, we signed with Square Ring, and Roy Jones is actually our promoter, and the dear friend of ours. He's all of our childhood. We watched him growing up. We still, we were privileged to be there when we saw him fight on the last card here. So, I mean, it's never really come up. I mean, he's got a few fights lined up ahead of him that he has, planned out, and I just don't ever see that happening, no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool with that, but we can't say just because they're on the same, posters that they could never fight. Just because BJ is signed with Square Ring doesn't mean that the fight could never happen. I mean, we've had Oscar fighting Bernard Hopkins, we've had Oscar fighting Sugar Shane, and that's his two co-promoters right there. It happens.
Yeah, it could, and I'm not saying that there's nothing impossible in the boxing business, and I'm sure if both of them agreed to it and it was the right situation, they probably would. But I don't know if that's a fight that either one of us would want to take.
Yeah, you're right about it. I mean, if Lennox Lewis, a lifetime HBO fighter, can fight a lifetime Showtime fighter in Mike Tyson on an HBO pay-per-view, then that fight could happen. Then BJ could fight Roy. But I don't want to push that anymore. Jacob, somewhere there's a kid right now, 15, 16 years old, who says, you know what, I love boxing, but I don't think I have the skill really to be a boxer. I think I'd like to be a trainer. I think I'd like to be a cross trainer. Maybe I'd like to train a boxer. How does one become a boxing trainer?
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting that you asked that question because when growing up, in the amateurs when I fought, and as a boxer, I never really saw myself, being a trainer. But the older I got, I worked with younger kids, and I started holding pads, for my teammates. And one of the best boxing coaches in the entire boxing business, Ken Adams, who was my boxing coach, he had a lot of fighters. So he would, ask me to hold the mitts for this guy or for that guy. So for years, as I was, underneath him training as a boxer, I was helping him train some of the other fighters. So, I watched him. I just learned everything from him. He's a great boxing mind. So the years I spent with him, I just kind of evolved into this boxing mind as a trainer. I started looking at fighters differently. I started helping them. I started seeing things from, as I got older, from a training perspective. And I never really sat down when I was a kid, 15, 16 years old, and said, oh, you know what, I want to be a trainer or anything like that. The only thing I could say if somebody was growing up and wanted to do that is to get underneath somebody who's a boxing trainer now who can teach them and kind of show them what it would be like. You got to get in the gym and kind of train yourself. You got to really do a lot of research to get into it. It's not something you can just decide to do one day.
Well, you can't major in that in college either.
Yeah, right. Like I said, it's very interesting how it happened to me. I was very fortunate to be around, like I said, Ken Adams and a great group of guys. I've trained some world champions, Edwin Valero. I've trained some Jorge Linares. I've held mitts and worked with a lot of these guys. And when BJ and I, first got to know each other, we were basically like teammates. We weren't necessarily, I wasn't really his trainer. So I did the camp with Darnell Wilson and Kenny, kind of as an assistant to Kenny, and that's where the bond formed between BJ and I. So the whole training, side of it just kind of took its own way.
Now, when do you think BJ's ready to be taking on these guys like Cunningham and Adamek?
I think BJ's, always ready to fight any opponent. I think the team that we have right now is very, very good, and we can look at any opponent as a viable option for us at BJ's stage. He's very strong. He trains very hard, and he's always in shape. There are certain matches that we would like, this guy instead of this guy, or but it doesn't matter who it is. Adam Cunningham, any of the champions, Fragomeni. We're ready for any one of them. I think BJ's ready to take that next step right now.
Well, I'm expecting Fragomeni's people to be calling in any time now to get this all out in the open so that fight can happen, because their styles would definitely make a killer fight. BJ, I know you're listening still, right? You're still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Okay. I think as far as styles go, and they always say styles make fights, I think BJ Flores against Fragomeni is going to be one of the best matchups at cruiserweight right now.
We're going to call it Uppercut City, because that's all I'm going to be shooting against Fragomeni. He's a short guy. He's got very good defense. He comes forward, but he ducks down a lot. He likes to bend under punches, and he's got good head movement. So we might as well just go, we're going to find him right up the middle underneath. So I'm going to forget about all those other punches and just, focus on uppercuts and hooks and body shots, and it's going to be a good fight. He's going to come forward, and I'm going to meet him right there in the middle, so it's going to be good.
Very nice. BJ Flores, his trainer, Jacob Chavez, I thank you so very much on behalf of Bolo Punch. You've always been good to us. You've always granted us interviews when we've asked, as long as we're polite. And we will see. Are you going to be on ESPN next Friday?
No, I'm not. I might be on ESPN September 28th, though. They added one final show.
They are, that's
and
right.
I might be going to Bristol for that, but they are going to show highlights of my fights next Friday night on ESPN Friday Night Fights. So, definitely check them out. And you guys already saw the fight, so it's no new news to you. But they're going to show highlights and talk about it a little bit. And I should be on the show September 28th, so that'll be another good thing for me. Excellent.
Thank you so much. Tell everyone out there Bolo Punch says hey, and we'll talk to you real soon. BJ Flores, cruiserweight contender.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later, and we'll take a break. We'll be right back at you. This is your Bolo Punch.